So at the other end of the spectrum, from the kind of Irish heat pump, ultra modern kind of continuous distilling, we've also got some kind of background with clients who are looking to maybe reintroduce some of the old style technologies or kind of different ways of producing spirit. So do you want to give us some of that?
Yeah, well, we did direct fired distillation with Nick on a very small scale down in Moffat distillery. And direct fired is where a modern pot still, the copper pot still, has got like a kettle element in it with a steam heated pipe, and that's how 99% of all distillers boil their distillate. But a direct fired distillery in the olden days used to just have a flame underneath the pot, and that would be coal or it would be wood. And so what you did was, in doing that, you caramelized, you burnt the spirit at the bottom of the copper.
Yeah.
And so they had these great things called rummagers, which are basically just like chains on a rotary system that scraped the bottom. So imagine the spirit in those days. It was a burnt spirit. It was caramelized, and that the Maillard reaction, my favorite thing, the Maillard reaction, like when you've got toasted cheese or the brown bits on roast potatoes, that's all the Maillard reaction. You're cooking the sugars. Yeah. So it's completely different. Imagine that compared to today's just steam boiled, where nothing burns. It's a totally different spirit. So although they say whiskey's always been made the way it's made, and we can't change the traditional ways, that only came in with gas-fired boilers, fossil fuel-fired boilers in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
So that's how old modern whiskey is. And before that, it would have tasted completely different, like much heavier, much meatier. You always hear about like a Highland sulphurous whiskey. That's what most whiskey would have been like.
Yeah, and I think like Nick's new make spirit is just a completely, like you'd say, it's a different drink to other new makes.
It's worked out really well.
That I've had, so.
Yeah. And then we've been doing that design for the Black Isle, which is a much larger scale version of that, where one of the stills, one of the spirit stills, no, it's the wash still, is direct fired, and it's in a kind of onion dome shaped chimney building of its own. So that sits in the middle of a courtyard, and that's not even seen the light of day yet, but we've been developing that design for a while, getting into the technical design of that. You've got some of the Japanese distilleries are doing direct fired, always have.
Yeah.
And if you go up to Forsyths and Rothes, you'll see their stills being made with the chains in the base. And then Chivas are doing experiments with external hydrogen direct firing, which is really interesting, because of course that makes so much sense, because when you burn hydrogen you just get water. That's your exhaust is water. Yeah. So you could have that in a route, in theory.
And what's the kind of downside? Because like I think like you'll go through copper quicker, like your still must deteriorate quicker if you've got a rummager.
Physical downsides, but what you get is more variety, don't you? So a bit like at Ardnamurchan, there's wooden washbacks and there's steel washbacks, and so you can play tunes with the different things that you make. Yeah. And that's the same with the opportunity to have this different character of spirit, is you'll be able to blend it in and have either something that's entirely different or add character to your standard stock and blend it in and make something that's a bit more rich. Yeah, because I think that's the advantage that a new distiller has effectively, is that they don't have a background, they don't have a kind of standard product that they're trying to hit, so you can have a play and see, right, this is actually the best thing that we can make with this kit. So you're not tied into anything. It's maybe a bit harder for the established brands to kind of retrofit. But as you said before, like, that must have happened in the past. Everyone went from direct fired to indirect at one point, which, it changes the spirit. But previously you didn't have like multinational corporations running those things. So people did, like the owners wanted to do the cheapest and easiest way of making their spirit, not necessarily thinking, like we've got a legacy of
like 80-year-old malt that we need to sell for X amount per bottle. So like, there's a completely different mindset when you've got those big corporations who are kind of running things.
Yeah.
But then Beam, you know, I went to that presentation that the guys who are developing the hydrogen-fired still for Beam, and like they want to go back to everything being direct fired, which is it's got to be a big risk for an organisation.
Everything's
that's what they talked about. Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Because that's how it would have traditionally been made. You know, like they want to.
So that's with one distillery that its output is entirely direct fired. Mm-hmm. Right.
Because direct hydrogen fire. So you've got the energy efficiency or that carbon footprint reduction, but also increasing the quality or going back to the quality of spirit that they want.
Mm. Yeah, that's something that you see that continually is, it's not quite back to the future, but it's like forward to the past. And distilling is always stuck doing that in interesting ways.
Yeah.